Looks like we're doing all right.
Has it come up yet?
No.
No.
You're saying it is here, isn't it?
Yeah. Could be on the European page, mate. There's 2 pages, isn't there?
You any good at speaking Dutch?
No, mate.
I can speak a little French.
It could be Italian. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. I think we are up and out. I think.
Yeah, I don't know, am I?
That's So, mate, your fish are spawning.
Yeah. They had a go about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then it went a bit cooler, so they stopped. But they've been chasing each other about like mad today, the last couple of days. So I reckon it's pretty imminent.
Yeah. As I was saying earlier, that our lake in England has started spawning today, which is like really, really early.
The thing is, they've got no angling pressure, have they?
No, mate, they looked happy enough.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure that puts them off a couple of weeks.
Just bear with me 1 second. You want to go to the European page, like the European one. Like they've got a European one. Put Shimano Europe. Sorry, I just sorted my missus out, mate. She wants to have a look at this, and she was on the wrong page.
Right.
So
I'm sure it should do them good not being fished for. To be fair, they need a rest and a good chill out. They need a good feed as well, don't they?
Yeah, mate. But I mean, where you are, mate, you got loads of water, so your lockdown's been pretty good, to be honest, hasn't it? You know what I mean? Hiya, Jonathan. You all right, mate? Yeah.
Hello.
That's it. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, mate. So, staying where you are, mate, that'd be really nice. Do a bit of fishing. So
they're a bit like my pets now. I don't really like catching them.
I can understand that as well. That actually happened. A lot of fishery owners don't actually end up fishing for them, do they? Because they just look at them like that.
No, I mean, I usually fish for them to see when they need feeding.
Yeah.
And what I basically do is I feed them one day. They're usually very active just before they want feeding again. So I'll put the rods out. If all 3 go within an hour, they have it. If all 3 go quicker, they have it twice.
Right, do you know what? I haven't even picked up a rod, mate. This must be the longest time I've never picked up a rod for. I haven't cast 200 yards now for about 6 weeks, mate. That's really, really unusual.
The field I go casting on's literally about 10 yards from the gate.
Yeah.
I literally just walk across the road and it's there.
You actually told me that you got all your rods clips up, hadn't you? 160 yards on the lake that you're fishing, but nobody else is fishing. Yeah. So you just go there, just go bang, 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 feed it all up, and you're away.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm fishing in about 20 minutes.
That's right.
6 or 7 spots, 4 rods done.
Mate, it takes me about an hour to get to my lake.
Oh, it's a fair walk. I've probably got half a mile walk, but it's an easy walk.
Yeah,
it's a proper park path, like.
So, what rods are you using, mate? Are you using your ultras for that?
Yeah, I use the ultras. I love them ultras.
Yeah,
they chuck as hard as what I've ever had to chuck, and they're just brilliant for playing fish. So I like one set of rods. I don't like using rods for this and rods for that. I'd rather just have one set and use it for everything.
Yeah, a little bit like me, really, mate. But I've just settled on like TX7s because I just like the stiffness, mate. I like fast rod.
Yeah, well, the ultra's actually got a stiffer butt than the CX.
Yeah, but it softens up, doesn't it, in the midsection earlier?
Yeah. But yeah, I like them ultras. I've never been anywhere where I've not been able to get where I want to get. So why use anything else?
They're your babies, though, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. I do like them.
I can remember when I first picked them up. When I first picked them up after I come from Harrison's, the first thing that I remember about them was how light they were, mate.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Have you noticed a lot of difference since you come from Harrison's?
Yeah, obviously that I've cast a lot of the rods anyway, because obviously I've travelled around casting a lot of the rods, but definitely faster, definitely lighter. That's the main, and slimmer. They're the things that I found. It's do you remember when I used to tell you that I used to go into the rod too early and that I used to come down and it had snow on it, the ledge? because
Yeah.
I was so used to the Harrison rods that bend and bend and bend. I used to like go into it really early, think, right, I'm going to really have this. This is going miles, and I used to come down with snow on it, mate. So yeah, it wasn't that great.
That's the thing when the rod's that stiff and recovers so quick, you just sky it all the time, don't you?
Yeah, it actually shocks me. It shocked me at first because like you look at the rod and it's really slim, and you think, do you know what, I'm going to get right into this, and then it stiffens up through the cast, and you think, oh, that actually shocked me. It did actually, yeah. So it actually took me a little bit of time to adjust my timing, because I found that especially with the TX7, especially that one, you got to hit it late.
Yeah, that is the stiffest of the lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas something like the TX2 or something, which is a really easy to cast rod, it still casts a long way. They all cast, don't they, mate?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and they don't break either.
No. I mean, I haven't broke one yet. Which is really weird for me. But I found like with the TX2, you can actually, it's easier to bend, so you can go into it like my older Harrison style blanks, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it's
actually rod in it.
Yeah, that's right. But you know, it depends what action rod you like, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, just because you chuck a TX7 further, it don't mean say that Charlie down the road's going to get the furthest with that rod.
No,
it don't work like that, does it?
Definitely not.
Everybody's built different. Everybody's different strength, different speed.
Yeah.
You need to get a rod that suits your casting.
Yeah. Go on then, Mike.
Hang on, I've got to get my thing. Let's start lead. If you're fishing ranges up to 160, what leader setup would you remember? Right. Well, what I do is, where it's allowed, I just have 031 main line, and I always use a fluorocarbon leader, and that's usually about 28-30 pound. Helicopter setup, 4.5 ounce lead. That's my go anywhere long range setup. I've tried other leaders, braided and that, but I always go back to the fluoro. I've always caught more fish using it.
Bit different for me, mate. I tend to use sinking braid, but that's just because I find the casting easier. That's why, more consistent. Totally understand why people use fluoro leaders, because it sinks, which is really cool. Yeah, and obviously on the bottom it looks a lot better than braided leaders. But I still use a helicopter system, and the thing is, with a helicopter system, I don't like losing the lead, because
I don't know.
Because there's no way for that hook link to slide up off the leader if the lead's...
Yeah.
So with leaders, especially braided leaders, I don't like to use them if it's very weedy, because I don't like the fact, I mean, if you lose a fish, you're going to lose it above the leader. And safety, you've got to be very careful, I think, with leaders. If you've got access to a boat or something, that's okay, isn't it? Because you can get the fish out by using the leader. But fishing from the bank, leaders are a bit funny. But if I can, I prefer braided. But I totally understand why you like fluoro as well.
I mean, at that range, I think the last 70, 80 yards of line's on the deck anyway.
Yeah.
Just the way to the line.
Yeah, it's definitely
on shallow lakes.
Yeah, definitely if it's weed free and there's no like weed bed you're casting over, which again, it's not great to use leaders if it's too weedy at range anyways on 3-1 lines.
I mean, I remember on Grenville we had to use no leaders, so a lot of we were all using the tapered lines, and they were all right, but you used to have an odd one snap because the leader's not long, it wasn't strong enough, basically.
Yeah.
You were all right when you had the wind on your back, but when you had it in your face and you had to start leveling it, it started snapping. And I don't know, I just like the fluoro leader. I've always caught more doing it, using it.
I think presentation wise, yes, like definitely. There was just another question come up there, and I can't get it back. I don't think. I don't know how to get it back. If that question could come in again, that'd be brilliant. 250 yards with a 12-foot rod. If so, why would you use a 13-foot rod? For me, basically, 13-foot rods are easier to cast. I think it makes the job easier to do. Secondly, with powerful rods over a longer length, it allows you to blend the softer tip into it so the fish plan's better. That's for me why I would use longer rods, just for lead speed and just for fish playability.
Yeah,
But I
find them more accurate as well.
Yeah, because it's easier.
Yeah, once you go past 140 onwards, I find a 13-foot rod's more accurate.
Definitely, it's just an easier 13-foot rods. People also, they've got this thing about 13-foot rods, thinking that you've got to be a massive guy or you've got to be really tall and all that. But I'll be honest with you, mate, on my lessons and all that, I find that nearly everybody casts further with 13-foot rods.
Well, look at Amanda, she does.
Yeah, I mean, Amanda's distances are amazing.
Yeah, and she don't like 12-foot. I don't like 12-foot rods.
Yeah.
That's a question.
What's Mr. Holmes got? How do you get around? The no leaders are nearly almost syndicates on faces. Nice to see you both follow. Don't rate many angles that respect you. Bless him.
Well, you're fishing straight through, basically.
Well, yeah, you got to fish straight through, and basically you got to be fishing lines always by diameter. You got to be fishing lines at about 0.37 to 0.38 mil. I think that's a really good balance. 0.35, I think, can snap a bit easy.
Yeah.
0.40 can be a bit hard to cast. So I try and tend to use lines around 3.8, and I probably level line fish on my lakes nearly everywhere because the lakes I'm fishing, I'm only fishing up to 140, 150 yards. So level line will just get me there. Just get me there. And I don't have to have the risk of using leaders. So, that's for me what I would do in that. I always use 4-ounce leads as well with it.
Any heavier and you're going to crack off.
Exactly. And any lighter, it's not really heavy enough to pull that thickness of mono out to that distance very well. It slows up very quick. Yeah. The wind affects it. And also tightening up. If you've got a 3-ounce lead and you just cast 130 yards, you're trying to tighten up, you probably move the lead.
Yeah.
So that's what I would be level line fishing. Do you do much level line fishing over there, Mike? Or you do leaders on your lakes?
On here I do. On the public lakes I fish, they're all big 130, 150 acre lakes. Yeah. They're very shallow, very sandy. Yeah. And it's just perfect for a line and leader. I mean, I've always been a great believer in I use the heaviest line I can.
Yeah,
get. I've never been one for very thin lines, and you're fishing for big fish at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And you want to land them, don't you, mate?
Yeah, I won't like to hook something and think, oh, I wish I had a bit heavier line on.
Yeah.
I want to make sure.
I fish wherever the fish are, mate, but I don't stalk. I'm too lazy. Yeah. I don't stalk, mate.
I have done a bit of stalking. I just love fishing. I just love fishing. I'm happy on an acre lake or a 100-acre lake. I just love fishing, but I do. If you were going to say one style of fishing, it would be long-range fishing. Yeah,
I tend to move, but you won't really see me creeping around with a stalking rod and all that. I like to get a bit of bait out there, mate, and that's me. But I will move on to fish, of course. But I won't be creeping around no undergrowth, mate.
No.
That's just not like my style of fishing. Right. When level line, are you stripping so much line off the end of sail? Well, for me, do you know what? I'd probably strip off. If I'm having no problems, I very rarely strip it off, to be honest with you. But if I do, it'll only be about 10 foot every now and again.
Yeah, I'd just, every time I started, I'd just check my knots and run my underline along it. And if it felt all right, I'd just carry on.
Same as me, mate. It all comes down to how much you're fishing and the damage it's occurring. If it's got muscles and all that or over heavy bars, you got to look at it a lot, haven't you? But if it's clear and all that, line lasts a surprisingly long time. Even on my casting lessons, I've got the same reel that I'm casting 3 or 4 times a week, and I just leave the lead on it until it snaps off.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh God. I'll leave you that one, Mike. What's the formula, mate? What's the formula?
Right. This is what I found. When I'm fishing in less than 18, 20 foot of water, I clip them up the same.
Yeah.
And when it's gone, when I've been fishing deeper, I've had my spot a rod length shorter.
Yeah.
And until I stop catching doing that, then I'll think of something else. But I don't look into it too much, to be honest. As long as my bobbins are going up, I know something's working.
You know what, mate? I think being accurate with your fishing is very, very important. Okay, this is just my. I think it's really, really important. But one thing I don't tend to worry about too much is line stretch, because I calculate for the depth and how far I'm fishing, but there's just no way that you can calculate stretch, I don't think, mate. I think it's impossible for you to give somebody a guide and say, you're going to cast 140 yards today with a 4-ounce lead in that bait, and that's going to stretch 3 foot. You just don't know, do you?
I mean, I reckon it'll stay 160 yards. I reckon if you said a 6 metre square area, and they'll all land in that, that's good enough for me. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, well, it's funny actually, because again, over the fields, when I cast over fields, we cast like targets. I'll put a target out in the field, and we'll have it clipped up. Say it's 140 yards. We'll have it clipped up. We'll cast out. Somebody will hit the clip. But theoretically, that should be 140 yards. It's gone. It's hit the clip, but it can be anywhere between, depending on the wind and stuff. You might land at 130 yards, or sometimes you might hit it hard and flat and it stretches, and it could be 143 yards.
Yeah.
So I think it's really, really difficult to judge that. I try and
fish as accurately as I can.
Yeah.
I've always caught more and bigger fish being as tight as I can, but like you say, they could be within 5 or 6 yards. It's not going to make any difference.
People aren't as accurate. Mike's dog's just gone for a walk. James, I can answer that one really quick for you, mate. Nah. no. Yeah, what I was going to say, do you know what I use a lot for accuracy, mate? Elastics on my line. Without an elastic marker, mate, I just don't think you know where you are.
Yeah. Oh, this is Ruby, by the way.
James just asked a good question. James said, do you ever count reel turns, Mike?
No. I don't bother with elastic anymore, to be honest, because over here I'm fishing 4 rods a lot.
Yeah.
And I've always, when one goes, I'll land that fish, do the photos. I always give it half an hour. And more often than not, another rod will go.
Yeah. I think...
So I just do wraps.
There's something else actually quite interesting about that as well. Do you know when you're fishing spots and all that, and you're trying, some people try and fish tight, don't they, with like 3 rods on it. Other people might fish with a spread baited situation. I think the smaller item of feed that you're feeding, like say you're fishing hemp and corn, like a lot of people do these days, and a little spinner rig over it. Say you're doing that, okay? Very common tactic. I think accuracy is really important then. But I think if you're fishing a spread of boilers, I think there or thereabouts will still do a good job.
Yeah.
That's my personal thoughts on that.
Yeah, so you do get, I've always give it half an hour, and a lot of the time that another rod will go.
Yeah. What do you fish a spread of boilers and stuff, or are you a particle angler?
I keep it as accurate as I can.
Yeah.
Try and keep it as accurate as I can.
Right, okay.
I've got all 4 rods on it. Well, one interesting thing I've noticed on the public lakes over here.
Yeah.
And I did mess about having 2 and 2. Yeah. I've not had one bite on a popple.
Really?
Not one bite. I've caught like 12 fish some days.
Yeah.
All on the 2 wafter rigs.
I have to admit, this year I've actually decided to do a bit more like bottom bait fishing. It's just that everybody's on pop-ups, mate. Spinner rigs, stiff hinges. Yeah. I'm not really a great one for rigs, to be honest, as in I think a sharp hook and a decent rig will catch fish always. Yeah, but I do want to give that an experiment. There's a question there, mate, about what rods in the TX range is best for distance fishing? Well, they all
model.
They all cast. So all the 13-foot intensity like models cast. It depends what action you want, I think, Mike, isn't it?
I mean, you've got like the TX2, and well, look at it this way: you prefer the 7, I prefer the Ultra. Amanda likes the 9A, and James likes the TX2.
I know.
Every one of them is a different action rod.
Yeah, you said to me, because I haven't spent much time with the TX9, but you said to me it's very similar to the TX2, but just better carbons, lighter, faster. So it's a bit more through action.
It's a perfect level line rod, the 9, 2 and 9.
Yeah, because that's important with level line casting, that the rod actually bends a bit, isn't it?
If it's too stiff with level line, then you start getting crack-offs and that. But I mean, I'm surprised how many people buy rods when they've never actually used them.
Yeah.
Or have a cast with them or anything. They just buy them, and what are these like? Well, you should find that. You're better off go and have a chuck with them, or a waggle with them or something, aren't you? Or get one of your mates and have a chuck with theirs.
I can tell you a bit of a story about that, mate. When I first started my tournament casting, and like you've been there as well, my surf tournament casting, I used to read all the adverts, mate. That's all I used to do was like read the adverts, and I used to think, oh my god, like Danny Mescott's just cast 300 yards with that rod. I've got to buy it. So I used to chase around and just buy all these rods, mate. I must have spent about $5,000 on rods. And when I realised that, yeah, of course the rod helps. It's nice to have a nice rod. But when I realised concentrate on technique and then buy the rod that suits you, that's when I really got somewhere.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? I mean, what Danny could bend, nobody else in the world could bend.
Oh, mate, when I first ever saw Danny, when he was surf casting, it was unbelievable. And now that you look at some of the Argentinians guys, you just look at them, it's just another level again. You think that's unbelievable, isn't it? They're powerful, big guys, aren't they, mate?
Yeah, they are. And just because they're going to bend it and send it, don't mean say anybody else will.
That's it. And it's the same in the kart world, mate. I mean, for me, I don't find many kart rods stiff, to be honest, because, you know, like yourself, you've got good technique.
Rods, they're sloppy, aren't they, really?
Exactly, yeah. Best reel for casting between an Ultegra C14 1400 XTB or the big bait runner?
I'd say there's very, very little in it.
Same as me.
Anything.
For casting wise, I'm not a massive fan of bait runner reels. They're a little bit heavier, a little bit bulkier, but I can still cast them. But if I had to choose between them personally, I'd choose the C14.
Yeah,
1400.
But distance-wise, I don't think there'd be anything in it.
Oh, no, not distance-wise. It's just how it feels, isn't it?
Does a person's body make a difference to how somebody can cast? Strong, tall lad against... I know some small people that have cast massive distances, and I've known some huge people that can't cast anywhere.
It's same as I was going to say.
No, I mean,
look at Ludmil from Bulgaria. I mean, he's a
powerful lad.
Yeah, he's powerful, but he's short. Andy Green, powerful but short.
Yeah. I mean, Andy Green, what would he weigh? 11 stone?
Yeah, 300 yarder, mate.
Yeah.
So
and then it's technique and getting the rod to suit you.
Especially for kart rods, I think it's technique and speed. I'd rather have speed than size in kart rods.
Yeah, without a doubt, yeah.
And again, I can just go back to like on my lessons. When I look at people, when I first meet them, I can't tell you if he's going to be a good caster or not. You could get a massive, great, muscular guy. You could get a little guy who looks quite unfit, and one could outcast the other that you wouldn't even believe would happen.
I remember Linear. I think it was one of the first casting academies we ever did on the open day. And there was, I think he was 13, the lad that come up, and he was a little thin, skinny little 13-year-old lad. And his uncle who brought him was like Schwarzenegger. He was enormous. His arms were bigger than my legs. And we got the young lad, and he's hitting the clip at 140 yards, just above the water, perfect. Every chuck he was doing it in the end. And we said, "Come on, then you have a go." And he was smashing it to pieces and couldn't get 100 yards.
Yeah.
Whatever he did, he said, "I just can't do it," because I think he was just that big. Everything was at the same speed.
Yeah. I think as well. I'm sure that you would have like you think the same about this, that people have got this wrong like perception of how far things are these days, because you get a lot of people saying, say it's me, right, on my Facebook page, so I'm doing 200 meters, I'm doing that, but it's really rare for these people to be doing that. People fishing at 130, 140 yards are doing really well. But people, because you hear of all these big distances, people don't believe that, or they've got expectations that aren't reality of what's really going on. And I see that so often, like people, oh, I'm putting a bait 120, 130 yards. They come down the field, they can't put a lead that far.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're never going to do it with a rig. Yeah. I have noticed one thing with long range fishing. People try and go to the extreme cast straight away. And it's one of the biggest mistakes you can do.
Yeah.
You're better off, say you think you can fish 120 yards comfortably, fish at 100. And then when you're 100% with that, put another 10 on.
Yeah,
and
be accurate
that way.
I think it's better to fish accurate and at a distance you're comfortable with than spread bait all over the place 30 yards and you're finding it hard to get there.
Because if they just end up getting frustrated then, and they don't catch anything, and they're splattering bait all over the place. They're better off coming back a bit. When they're happy with that, then go that way.
Definitely.
And do it that way.
I saw, hi Adrian, mate. What guide would you favour and why? What guides do you like, Mike?
I quite like the 40mm K guides, to be honest, but
I'm
not really fussed.
Yeah.
The 40mm book K guides I like best, but I'm not really bothered, to be honest.
I've never known a guide yet to add distance to me. I've used Kaigan guides for many years. I'm still using Kaigan guides on the TX7. I'm happy with the Kaigan guides, mate. I've used the Kaigan guides forever now. I've tried, like you, mate, I've tried loads of different guides, Minmas, Ks, Torzites, and there's not been one yet that I've put on there that's added distance. I think I just use them now to make sure that they're strong enough and like durable. That's all I want when I'm fishing, and make sure they cast all right. So a 50 set.
And the Keegans they do what they say on the tin, don't they?
Yeah, I'm not really much of being like a tackle tart and all that, mate. I just want it to work, and a 50mm Kaigan set does me fine.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, I think when you use it, it depends what line you're using that makes the 50mm difference.
Yeah.
If you're using the fluoro and thicker line, you want the 50mm.
Definitely, mate. Can you read that one, mate?
Do you think it makes a difference using different spoms or spods at range?
What would be your like go-to one for long range fishing? You like the old dot, don't you?
I like the dot spod, yeah.
Yeah, I've used that one. I like that too. I have to admit, I've been using Spom like recently. I think the Alien Spod cast very, very well as well in winds and stuff because it's got a weighted front. So I'd use that for boilie fishing
as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd use that for boilie fishing as well because it gives you a different spread. Because it comes in backwards, you can like get a bit of a line going rather than just a big like bunch on a spom. But I have to admit, I do use the big spom up to about 140 yards, mate, just because I like a bit of bait and it holds a bit of bait.
I just have a lot of them break them, to be honest.
What's that, the big spoms?
Yeah, you chuck it in and then it comes back. Either the swivel snaps on it casting or the end bit's missing. So I just give up on them, to be honest.
You've been boosting too much, mate.
Did you always have a tight bobbin when fishing at range? I always use springers.
Yeah, they're good. They're really good.
I use the solar titaniums, the long ones, and I won't say I don't have it like a piano wire. I have it, but I have it so I'm not getting daft bleeps or anything like that. I always use a springer.
I'm going to tell you something about that, right? Because I like really tight lines. I have mine in a clip, and I have heavy leads, 4.5 ounce leads usually. I use a big heavy hanger, and I was at Sherpont Lake. Was it last year or the year before? Year before, and it's really silty over there. And I was at Sherpont Lake. Has my thing gone?
No, I can see you.
Yeah, it's just all gone. Anyway, I was at Sherpod Lake, right? And it's really silty, and I was tightening my lines up so much that the rod tips are like bent up to the lead. It's like a quiver tip bent round to them, and it was really, really shallow. And when I used to get like a bite there, they used to just like swirl on the top. It was like an eruption on the surface because it was quite shallow, and it was great fun fishing like that, mate. But I tend to have really tight lines.
Yeah, I don't have them silly tight, but I have it so I'm not getting any bleeps or daft bleeps out. But I think I find them springers perfect, to be honest, for that fishing.
Yeah, I think springers are really good, mate. I do think springers, but basically you got to have some tight lines out there because the bow and the liner just carry on, won't it? You know.
Oh God, you'd be all over the place. Fishing at range 330 yards plus feed rods on a spot in 10 foot of water. Oh, shoot. I'd just fish it exactly the same in 10 foot of water.
10 foot of water. What you have to remember, the further you fish, I think in 10 foot, there's going to be a bit of stretch. So it's not going to be much in it, is there, Mike?
No, I've done it on fields and that as well. I remember when we used to go Lahore a lot, and I was on an 8-acre syndicate then.
Yeah.
So I had no long range fishing.
Yeah.
So I used to go out a month before, 2-3 times a week, and I used to practice. So when I got there, all my free rods and spods were in the same place.
Yeah.
And there's that little in it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's something to worry about.
Well, if you think about it, if you cast a spod high and it hits the clip, that'll be a little bit shorter than if you cast one a bit flatter and it hits the clip.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
So there's always going to be a little bit of variation, but the normal rule that they say is for every 3 to 4 foot of water, you're going to take a foot back off the spod, aren't you? That's the general rule people say. But I think the further you fish out, the more that's not going to happen because of the stretch in the mono.
Yeah. I just noticed with Grenville that over 20 foot, you were better off fishing it a rod length short.
Yeah,
anything less than 20 foot, just fishing the same.
What when you're fishing at Grenville's, that's a deep venue, isn't it? I've never fished there, mate.
Yeah,
is that quite
35 foot, some of it, yeah.
So obviously you have to pay a big attention to spodding over it then.
Yeah, but that would I always, and Carl did as well. Carl pitches as well.
Yeah,
we both found exactly the same. One rod length short once it went over 20 foot.
Right. Okay.
And up to 20 foot, exactly the same.
Yeah.
What diameter line do you recommend for 140 yards with a leader?
It depends on the person casting it as well. But if you can get away with it, a 3.0, 3.19 would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, I won't go below 3.1 for anywhere, to be honest. I just.
Now, the thing is, mate, if it was myself at 140 yards, I'd be using 3.5 or something like that because it's not a huge cut for me. But for somebody else, they might have to drop diameter a bit if it's safe to do so because you've still got to land the fish.
I think a 12-pound line and a leader, it'll put you in good stead for anywhere, really. When using fluoro, would you up the lead size to reduce line flap? Or raid the lead higher before the cast? Raise the lead before the cast?
I personally like heavier leads with fluoro just because it takes the coils out of the fluoro better.
It just pulls it through the rings faster, doesn't it?
Exactly. You start using light leads and trying to cast fairly hard with fluoro, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
I've used like naked chods and things with fluoro before, trying to cast them a bit further, and I probably get a frap like 5 times out of 10. But you put a heavier lead on it, mate, it just pulls it straight through.
Yeah, it just drags it through the rings faster for you.
Yeah. So I would, in that situation, I would go for a heavier lead.
Yeah,
personally.
Definitely.
I'm not to be honest, I don't use fluoro that much anymore anyway.
No, I do for leaders. That's
for leaders, yeah.
Oh, I'm the up lens.
Yeah,
I use the same fluoro for my leader and my up lens.
Who's your favourite angler, Mike?
Oh, God. Carp angler?
Yeah.
Does that mean who do I respect most in carp fishing?
I don't know. It's just Do you know, like, do you respect somebody for catching fish, or do you respect somebody for they're a good person, or do you respect them for both?
Yeah.
Respect them for both.
I mean, well, one of the best carp anglers I've ever seen is Dean Fletcher.
Oh, down at yeah, I know Dean. I fished. What's his syndicate called?
Tippings. He
That's it,
actually,
right?
owns the British record, doesn't he?
That's right, Dean. Yeah, like, you know him well, don't you? He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
He's a fantastic angler. He's carp fished since he was born, I think.
Yeah.
He just catches fish, keeps a low profile, keeps himself to himself, and just empties places, basically.
Yeah.
He's a class above him, definitely.
Do you know what? I've got a lot of respect for. I have to admit, I do like the match style anglers. People like on our own team, like Jamie and Mark Bartlett, and people like that. I do like their technical skills. I do like the way they catch loads of fish. I'm not so much into the big fish angler, maybe, that spends loads and loads of time on the bank, because I can't relate to that, you know. But I really, really like the technical side of some of our match guys, mate. I've got a lot of respect for them personally.
Yeah.
But that's me, you know. That's me.
If everybody liked the same thing, we'd only have a few waters and a few.
It's not that I haven't got respect for big fish anglers.
Also found a heavier lead and smaller drop on the cast when using fluoro. I've never known the heavier lead, really. I don't think it's got much to do with the drop.
No,
it's just heavy lead.
No, it's the problem is when you start shortening your drop, things happen too quick, and you haven't got an arc, and lead speed drops.
Any tips for extreme range spodding, spomming, preferred setups for 180 plus?
Go on, Mike.
Well, I use the TX Ultra Spod, the XTD reel. I think it's 020 braid on it. It's about £28, something like that.
Right,
and a £65 leader. I always make sure that I've got about 2 mil below the spool lip with the braid, just to eliminate wind knots and that. And that's the furthest setup I found for spodding, basically.
That's, to be honest, mate, that is a huge mistake that people make. They think by filling the spool up further, they're going to cast further. But actually, it gives you complete nightmares.
Yeah, disaster. But
for me,
I always have a couple of mil below.
Yeah, I'm very similar to you, mate. I would use a braid of around 0.16 to 0.18. Use Power Pro for many years. £60 leader. And I can't wait to get hold of our 13-foot spod rod, because that was an absolute beast. I love that.
Yeah.
But that 12-footer, mate.
I reckon to accurately fish and feed nicely, 190 is about the limit. Yeah,
you're starting to get over to, well 180 with a spod is 200 yards with a baited rig. I mean, 200 yards with a lead, which means you'll put a baited rig 180.
Yeah, and once you go past that, I just don't find that you can be accurate. You know, I've never had to go further than that anyway.
I've only had to do that once, mate. That was in France, PVA bags, but I weren't spomming over it. You know, I was just throwing bags at showing fish. For those type ranges, I'll be spreading boilies, mate, at 180. That's about. I'm not comfortable really after that. Yeah, because then you get the wind blowing into you. The wind can change and all that. That's going to make it a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, like you say, bags are one of the best for that, or
definitely
just single rigs. Yeah,
it's like you, like Grenville. That was a fantastic tactic over there, isn't it? Bags at range.
Yeah. I used to kick off with 2 rods over bait, and then just chuck a bag, and you usually had a couple of bites on the bag. And then as soon as I got a bite on bait, that was it. The bag rod went out the window, and the other one went on bait. That's what I used to do.
Yeah, that's like as a proper stock of fish over there, mate. Was you using the ultras over there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I use the ultras there. I use them everywhere, to be honest. I use them all here.
Because like old Carl at the time, I know he's not using them now. Is he still using them? But he was on a TX2s, wasn't
he? He loved the TX2s, doesn't he? Do you have it, guy? Yeah, I've not got a problem with bait boats. I get quite they're just another means of catching fish. The problem I've got with people using bait boats is when they start going out of where they should be. If you get what I mean, they start. But
What, like,
I have a problem with bait boats.
like, is that like when you cast over somebody swimming's catching?
Yeah, it's a similar thing, but it's a bit worse when a bait boat comes flying past you.
Do you know what?
Yeah,
Do
it's
you
just
know
another
what?
way of catching fish, isn't it?
You know what? With bait boats, I don't want to use a bait boat. Okay, I don't want to use a bait boat. But I wouldn't sit in a swim, mate, and get absolutely annihilated by somebody next to me who's using a bait boat.
Yeah, it's just another way of catching fish, and I personally don't see any difference in using a bait boat or jumping in a rowing boat.
No,
I mean, one's carpy, one's cheating. I don't get it.
I just don't like it personally. And I actually did try to use one in Poland, and I couldn't drive it, mate.
What knot would you use for your spod setup, line to shot leader? I always use a back-to-back grinner.
Same as me. Back-to-back grinner.
With braid, it'll be 5 turns with mono 4.
Yeah, I tend to use braid to braid, back-to-back like grinner. For my fishing with a braided leader, I'd use like a marhin knot. Yeah. So Ricky, how are you, mate? Right, what we got here? Looking to buy 10-foot rods, £3. Which ones can you recommend? Carp up to 40, please, guys.
Any of them.
Cheers for that, Wayne. What would you go for, mate? Out of the TX range, if you was gonna get some 10-foot.
All the 10-foot kids, I call them.
Yeah.
They all rave about the TX4s.
That's what I've heard, actually. Even when I worked at Angling Direct, they were the popular selling ones as well. So TX4s, but I think the TX2s would have a lovely through action.
I had blue sharks on up to £130 on the TX2 10-footers.
The last time I used a 10-foot rod was, funny enough, in Poland, and that was. I don't like 10-footers, mate. I like another 3-foot on them.
So that's the only time I've ever used one for blue shark.
But to be honest, mate, they're very popular. I can understand on smaller lakes why people are using them a lot.
DPS or Alps reel seats. I don't see the point in Alps reel seats, to be honest. I find them uncomfortable. It's not so much the flexing and all that lot. I just don't find them a comfort.
Well, I just go from my experience, mate, and I don't like them because I just can't see why you would put a bit of metal in a bending butt.
Yeah. And not only that, when you pick them up, it's like, I mean, when you're leveling it, you feel the rod buckle under your hand, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, I have broke a few rods, and with the out seats, I broke quite a few now, just above the reel seat, mate, just where it shears off.
There's no flex, and they're just uncomfortable and heavy. I don't see why anybody would want one, to be honest.
So for me, plastic Fuji seats or a carbon seat.
Yeah.
Perfect. Have you got your rods out there, Mike?
Fishing? No, why? No, they were getting ready for spawning, so I didn't bother. I've not had them out since Wednesday.
What a place, mate, to spend this lockdown.
Yeah, it could be worse, couldn't it?
Come on, I want another question. I'm surprised you haven't had a question yet on like how do you rate other brands' rods and things. I thought that'd be coming.
Yeah. I'm surprised we haven't had questions about rigs.
Yeah, rigs is well. What rigs do you use, mate?
I mean, the two. I've messed about with loads of rigs in the past, to be honest. We all have, haven't we? But the ones that I find best is the Fluoro D rig. I tweak it a little bit, and instead of the knot, I have a bead and that. Then I use that. That doesn't tangle. And I used to use the a 360 rig, but they got banned everywhere, didn't they?
Yeah.
And Carl Pictures showed us multi-rig.
Yeah,
and I haven't looked back for a pop-up off that multi-rig, to be honest. As long as you use a stiffish boom section, you won't have a problem with it.
The thing is about that 360 rig, there's a few people that I know that actually use it, and obviously, most of the damage, I don't use it, so I don't know. But most of the damage people are saying is actually in the net.
Yeah, I've never damaged a fish doing it, but I have seen somebody doing it when it went mental in the net.
Yeah.
I might tell you, I'm about to change rods. What would you recommend? I want to go back to 12 foot, capable of chucking a lead, but still play fish. I mean, it depends how far he needs to go, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm a massive TX7 fan, mate. So I'd say the 12-foot TX7 will cast. It's got a lovely tip in it, yeah, like the intensity one. Again, your Ultra would do that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the TX4 12 foot is an animal, isn't it?
That's a powerful rod, mate. That's a powerful rod. But
a powerful rod for a 12 footer.
I like the TX7 because of the tip. It's got a nice tip. Last foot and a half of it's got a nice tip on it.
Yeah. So any of the intensities, really, the Ultra, the 7 or the 4, you won't go wrong, will you?
Yeah, the Ultra or the TX7, I think. But I do like the TX7.
I use an helicopter rig where I can, but I have used lead clips on places where you've had to, and distance-wise, I've not really found that much difference, to be honest.
No, I've done loads of that over the fields, Mike. Loads of that. And the helicopter, say that I cast an average of 10 casts with a helicopter and a 16 mil. Then I do a lead clip. Every time the helicopter rig will have 1 or 2 casts that's further than that. So on average, a helicopter's a tiny bit ahead of it. I'm talking about over 200 yards. You're talking about 3 or 4 yards maximum.
Yeah, so you're not going to notice fish, you know you.
No, but for me, I use helicopters with leaders and I use lead clips when I'm not using leaders.
I'm fishing at range of 80 plus in shallow water. I am hitting the clip but struggling to feel the lead down.
That's really hard.
You don't.
Yeah, it's really, really hard. It's really hard. It depends if the bottom of the lake is hard or soft. And because the water's shallow, by the time you've tightened up, the lead's hit the floor. So what I would say, the best way is probably to fish quite a heavy lead and fish it quite flat. So you're in contact with that. You need that line to have no bow in it when you hit that clip.
I mean, the shallow lakes around here, there's quite a hard sandy bottom, and I've never felt the lead down yet. They're only 4 foot deep. Yeah. You just not want to feel the lead down.
It's hard. It's so hard, mate, especially in any wind.
Hi all, I'm the massive height of 5 foot nothing. I'm looking at getting some new rods and a bit worried about whether I would get a sufficient drop on the lead. Well, the answer to that is, I think we answered this one earlier on, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Sizing doesn't matter.
No, I mean, like you've cast. I mean, I've done casting off my knees. I'm sure a lot of us casters have now, just messing around. Yeah. And a 13-footer still casts better for me when I'm on my knees than when I'm standing up. So, height, I wouldn't even worry about how tall you are. Just get 13-foot rods. Just help.
Yeah, and they're far better to play fish on. Yeah,
much nicer. In powerful rods, they're much better to play fish on.
What size diameter mono shot leader do you guys use if you are not allowed to use braid? And what is the longest range you have played a fish from? Oh, God. I mean, I use the fluoro. I think it's 040. The Shimano Aspire fluoro, 040.
Yeah, that's... yeah, I mean, the tapered leaders go up to about 5'7". They're around 5'0 to 5'7". But if you're not using tapered leaders, then yeah, the 0.40, that's going to be fine, isn't it? It depends if it's a mono, if it's one of the standard tapered ones or not. I actually had one on my table, but I've moved it. Yeah, so
what's the furthest you ever played a fish? God.
I know my one. I've already said it when I was casting those PVA bags in France over 200 yards at those fish. So it's 200 yards plus. I don't know exactly how far.
Casting from the bank, yeah, chucking a bag probably over 200 yards. But I did empty a spool on an LC bait runner, you know, the old big brown one once, rowing a bait out.
Yeah.
And God knows how far that was. It was stupid, but...
I've done a little bit of boat work in Poland, but I just like my cast. I like bank fishing.
Yeah, I've done a bit of it and that, and I mean that's the good thing about fishing, isn't it? Because if everybody liked the same thing, there'd only be certain amounts of tackle, wouldn't there?
Exactly, and I'm sure that people pick waters as well that suits their style of fishing a little bit.
Yeah,
And like, yeah, like I do. Like I like to fish venues between about 80 yards plus, where I can. It's not far 80 yards, but it's further than a lot of people can fish comfortably. Anything between 80 and 150 yards, I'm happy. I like fishing at those ranges.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody has a comfortable range, don't they? I mean, the
Yeah,
thing is, once you get your tackling that set up to it and you're used to doing it,
yeah. Makes it
fishing
easy.
160 yards is just like fishing 80 because you're doing it all the time and
Yeah,
everything's laid out for it, isn't it?
yeah,
It just becomes easy.
and that's another thing that's important with long range fishing and casting. It's learning the technique and practicing it.
Yeah,
Because if you was going to do a sport, you practice that sport. You can't just pick up a rod and suddenly fish at range well. It don't happen like that.
do you guys use the reducers that are supplied with the new Shimano reels? Yes, I do.
So do I. So do I. I
Save
use
some pilot line.
I use them a lot, especially with the thinner lines on my casting lessons 3.0 and stuff like that. I think it just saves so much line. It's such a good idea, and to be honest, I just be locked about them now.
I was quite sad, really, because I have actually measured how much line I get on them. And the
Have you?
3.5 size, I get 290 yards of 031 line on it. And the 6,000 size, I get 280 yards of 035.
There you
They're
go,
the only
mate.
two used, so they're the only two attested.
Well, I haven't gone to that extent. I have to admit, mate. I just wind mine on, but
I
that's
must have
good
been in
info.
lockdown
That's good
before.
info. That's good info, mate. I'm sure people will get a bit out of that. What's my most memorable explosion? I think if you're talking about rods, it was in Denmark. It was in Denmark when I was doing like a demo in Denmark, and I had the Danish cart magazine there. Can't remember the name of it. They were filming me and they were photographing me, and it's in front of a load of people. And I've still got the photo now where the rod snapped in half and the tip's hanging above my head, and it's a really good bit of footage. So that was probably the best, but that's off the top of my head. I've broken so many now, Adrian, that I've just lost track, mate. Getting older. So yeah.
How long would you?
That's actually a good one, that is.
I always like quite a long up length, anything between 8 and 12 inch. I don't like anything shorter than that.
I'm a bit like that as well. I use a lot of lead clips because I'm fishing lakes where I'm not allowed to use leaders actually at this moment in time. And I use lead clips a lot with 3.8 or 3.7 lines straight through. And the bottom actually is quite soft where I'm fishing at the minute. So I'm using about 9 to 10 inch semi-stiff coated braid on a spinner rig. Quite predictable, but I'm not a believer that fish learn rigs very much, mate. I just think if it's presented and it's a sharp hook, and when with my bottom bait presentations, it's very similar, except it's a German rig because I'm using exactly the same components. So it's just really simple fishing for me. I'm not a riggy man. I'm all about location and bait.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely, the ones that keep everything simple seem to catch a lot more than the ones that try and complicate it.
I think it just frees your mind a little bit, Mike, as well. Like I know what I'm going to use. I've just got to go and find the fish.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
So yeah, I mean the spinner rig, everybody's on it and all that, but it's still catching loads and loads of fish. So there you go.
This one.
I'm tips down.
I just have them parallel, to be honest. It depends. If there's any marginal weed or anything, then I'd have them up. But
I love you, Mike.
Parallel.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if there's any weed close in, I have my tips up. But if I can, I like to get everything under the water, out the way, bowstring tight lines, and just wait for it to go, mate. If it pulls out of that clip, Job's a good one.
I don't like them with the tips down because I like to see the direction of my lines.
You
I
know
like 'em
what?
like a line.
I'll tell you something that I do, actually. Funny to say that. I actually lift my buzz bars up when I'm casting my rods out, so I know where all the lines are, then I sink them down. But that's what I do anyway.
Yeah.
Why does the Ultegra Seaport cast further than the Ultegra Spod in your... Oh, you done that video, mate?
Why does the Ultegra... It's about the oscillation, That's to do with the oscillation of how the line goes on the spool. That's all that is, basically.
Yeah, I haven't compared them, mate. I know you've done the video.
Yeah, there weren't much in it, but the CI4 did cast further than the other, but using the same braid and everything. It's to do with the oscillation of the reel.
Yeah, and that Ultegra, actually, the Ultegra C14 on my tuitions is casting really well, mate. That's a really good casting reel, that is. Saying that, you know, all the range cast, but I do like that one. I've actually used that lead system in sea fishing, funny enough. But I wouldn't use it in carp fishing. In sea fishing before, I've actually reeled in before and it's still been clipped up. So that don't really go down very well with me. And plus, over fields, when I've used it, there hasn't been much difference in distance whatsoever. So for me, it's a no. But Gemini, I have to admit, Gemini are a really good brand of stuff. They're quite ingenious with their sea fishing stuff. And I can understand why they'd come across with it, but it's not for me. No. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I'm not keen on the idea. I've used it loads sea fishing, but yeah. I don't see the need for it, to be honest. I don't see why it's any better than anything else, really.
Well, mate, when I used to go down there with some of the tournament guys in the cod season, mate, and I used to reel in out after 20 minutes on a freezing cold night, my logworm was still clipped up. I weren't too happy.
Yeah,
and like everybody else is catching around me, I'm going, Christ, what's going on? No, but Gemini do some good sea fishing stuff, don't they, mate?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. That one. Didn't see that then. What was that one?
I think that's thanks all for joining us tonight.
Oh, right.
So now we'll probably see Simon, I reckon.
Yeah. That went quick, that. Really quick.
Oh, look. Soft hook link at range. I don't know. No, not for me. I don't know if we're still live, but if you can hear this, Matthew, no. Tangle.
Fluorocarbon or stiff braid.
Yeah. I use semi-stiff. That'll be probably the softest I will use. And I'm only using that at the minute because I'm on soft ground.
Yeah, you're asking for trouble if not, aren't you?
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is cast out and everything's gone well and there's fish showing over you and you're tangled. That is bad news. Is this it? I can't see.
No, I can't.
I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, it's gone quite quick.
Isn't it? Really quick. Oh. Yeah, another question.
Yeah, see you, Adrian, mate. I'll speak to you soon. It's I'm actually answering a lot of questions to people. I'm sure you are, Mike. A lot on my Facebook page, and I've got no problem helping anybody. You know, mate, you can only advise people from your experience and what you learn, and it's always your own opinion, like your own opinion, isn't it? You know, not everybody's going to agree with you.
You have to find your own way, don't you, really? But just find as much help along the way you can and take the bits off that you need, innit?
Yeah.
That's the way I do it. But it wouldn't be daunting to people. There's nothing hard about it as long as you put the effort in.
Yeah.
And don't go too far too soon. Build up to it instead of going as far as you can.
Yeah. I think it's just practice like any sport. Cheers, Dave.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's just like any sport. I mean, if I wanted to go and play tennis, I couldn't just go out there and pick up a racket and be good at it. I'd have to get coaching and then I'd have to practice it.
Yeah.
But as I said, I'm not sure if this is the end of the feed or not. I don't know. Oh, there you go. It's not. I
He's
keep
not
releasing the
fucking-
line on the big cast too early. Any tips? So common. That is really common. I can tell you something that's actually worked for when I've helped people cast, and you're not alone. You're not alone. So many people cast too high. Now, in surf casting, I'm sure this is the same from Mike. I'm sure it is. One of the things that the first thing I was ever shown in surf casting was as I turned was to look up.
Yeah.
Now, if you look up, you will cast high because your eyes and hands work together. So the first tip I can give you with that, and it has worked on the people I teach, is look down to where you want to cast. Don't look up, because if you look up, you're going to cast high.
Yeah.
Another tip is try and put the power in a bit later in the car, because you'll probably go early.
If they pick a point, don't take their eyes off that point.
Yeah, because your hands and eyes work
When they
together.
come forward, they look down, a lot of them, and then it casts very flat then.
Yeah,
Or they go too high up and they just sky it.
yeah. I tend to. What's helped me is I tend to people don't look too high, because if you're going to throw a dart at a target, you would look at that target.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. If you wanted to throw it high, you'd look up. So that's what I found helped personally. So yeah. You know what? This is the longest a beer has ever lasted me. It's lasted me an hour.
I can't believe how quick it's gone.
And look at that. I'm just getting to the end of it now. Is it finished, Liz?
Unfortunately, I've come to the end of tonight's stream. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
Yes, Mike. I think that's it. My missus just said anyway.
I'd have thought